is not to be popular.
No, he is sure not popular. And I'll tell you why he's not popular when we come back. And I'll have the latest on the Freedom Convoy trial that has resumed in Ottawa this week. And I'm there. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. Yes, please like the station, give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, subscribe. I really appreciate you doing that. It helps a small station become a larger one. And I know so many of you tell me in your comments every day or every week you want this station to thrive. And thank you for helping out. And in memory of Sasha, please ring that bell and support us. So Justin Trudeau, you don't need to be popular. Who wants to be popular? Well, he's wanted to be popular his whole life. But of course, one of the reasons he's not popular, and we'll get into some of the specifics of this later, is because of the Freedom Convoy and what he did to the Freedom Convoy. Well, I was at the trial today of Chris Barber on the left and Tamara Lich on the right. This is a brand new photograph of them both. We got today as we visited the courthouse in Ottawa to see how the Freedom Convoy trial was going. And yeah, I'm tired. I was there all day doing interviews, talking to people. There's so many people there today who really, really want to know what's going on. You might remember that Tamara Lich and Chris Barber are charged basically with mischief. Yes, and inciting others to commit mischief. And as I've said, I've covered this trial from day one. And the prosecution, or the Crown, as we say in Canada, has been utterly inept at demonstrating any mischief being created by Tamara Lich or Chris Barber. They have tried repeatedly to suggest that they incited people to commit violence, to harass the local populace, and to ignore the instructions of the police. Video after video after video has proven that to be false. And I've said this in the past. But here's a shot. Yes, remember Tamara being arrested in the snowy February of 2022, just over 2 years ago. And she was thrown in jail without bail, spent months in jail, was rearrested because she attended an event. I won't go into all of that. So what's happening now? Well, we'll get into an interview with Lawrence Greenspon, the lead attorney with the Freedom Convoy people, with Tamara and Chris. And he's got some very interesting things to say. But what has essentially happened here is that a 16-day trial is now about 34 days. It's going to be approaching 40 days very, very shortly. And it has stretched from Labor Day weekend, 2023, now to March, and it's going to go all the way into August and maybe even September. That could make it a year-long trial for two people accused of mischief. And as I like to say all the time, this is the sort of charge that usually arises from a drunken wedding party, and it's resolved very quickly, usually without ever going to court. Certainly not a trial that's lasted this long. It's become bogged down in legal minutia that is so ridiculous, because the justice in this, Heather Perkins McVeigh, who has been very fair, I'll give her that. She has tried to be very fair to both sides. And to tell you the truth, she gets annoyed much more often with the Crown prosecutors because they're very arrogant, supercilious in their conduct at times. And I don't think she appreciates the attitude problem. but she has agreed to entertain their submission for something called the Carter application. This has been mentioned from day one of the Freedom Convoy trial. What is the Carter application? Well, it means that you can assess the activities and the supposed misdemeanors of two people as if they were co-conspirators. So whatever one does, the other can be accused of. What the second has done, the first can be accused of. And the prosecution is obsessed with naming and labeling Tamara Lich and Chris Barber as co-conspirators. Now, I don't know what the point of it really is, because they failed, as I can see, to point out what they've done separately or together that justifies any of these charges. And certainly it doesn't justify spending this much time in court. These guys live out in Western Canada. Chris is in Saskatchewan. Tamara Lich is in Medicine Hat, Alberta. They are literally having to drive out here to Ottawa and then back again every time they have to make an appearance in court. And as Tamara Lich has told me in the last interview that you probably saw here on Stand on Guard, it costs a lot of money. And no, she's not getting everything paid for by media sponsors or by a GoFundMe or any other charity out there. A lot of this is coming out of her pocket and her husband's pocket. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as this goes on and on and on. But I had a chance after watching this all day and saying, holy crap, I can't believe we're going to go into August and September, to talk to Lawrence Greenspon, the lead attorney for the Freedom Convoy pair. Now, they've got three excellent lawyers working on this, but Lawrence is also, by the way, representing Rebel News and Dave Menzies in their case against the RCMP lackeys working for Chrystia Freeland. I have a lot of respect for Lawrence, and I think he's doing a bang-up job. But mind you, as I've said to him many times, you don't have to work as hard as you might necessarily do otherwise, because the prosecution has been so inept. But let's listen to this interview with Lawrence Greenspon that just a couple of hours back. If we're looking at September, if this goes until September, this is a mischief trial that has gone on for a year.
Right.
Now, is there something wrong with Canadian law? If this was...
It's, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with the defense counsel. I mean, we've done our job. Is there a problem with the way and the manner in which this case has been presented as a mischief charge? Absolutely. Fortunately, this is not the way that 99% of mischief charges go. They don't typically take, in the vicinity of 40 days of court time. If that were the case, nobody would ever, receive justice in the Canadian justice system. So this case is highly unusual. The amount of time that it's taken, highly unfortunate. And, as to why it's taken this long, is really, not for me to say, not for me to point fingers.
Why do you think the Crown is so obsessed with labeling Tamara Lich and Chris Barber as co-conspirators? Because I've been here from day one. I have not seen a whole lot of evidence that they did anything together or separately that should have led to these charges. So why are they so obsessed with this co-conspirator label?
I think that's really a question that should be addressed to the Crown. I suspect that because there were a whole bunch of people in the Ottawa downtown core who were inconvenienced and in some cases temporarily uncomfortable, that is possibly the engine for the intensity in which this prosecution is taking place.
Yes, very interesting. So this should not be the way this trial is being conducted. This should not be the way any of this should be seen. But however, they're getting away with it. And it's costing a small fortune for those involved in this. So I appreciated talking to Lawrence today about this. I was amazed that this thing is nowhere near finished. I thought we might have some completion. I thought the defense would at least be at the point of presenting their final submissions by mid-March. No, not happening. So we will continue to monitor the Freedom Convoy trial. I'll continue to let you know what is going on here and why this is the interminable mischief trial. Let's get back to Justin Trudeau, though. Now, Justin Trudeau suddenly doesn't think it's necessary to be popular. He's actually saying, I'm not here to be popular. Let's listen to this. Then I got some comments to make about this.
Makes sense. Why are so many people still against it? Well, that's a question we all have to ask. But my job is not to be popular. My job, although it helps, my job is to do the right things for Canada now and do the right things for Canadians a generation from now. And that's what I've been focused on. And yeah, it's not always popular. But I know that doing the right things today that support people today, that deliver that better future a generation from now, 2 generations from now, is going to make a huge difference in the path we take forward. In regards to my environment minister, I have tremendous faith and confidence in my environment minister. And if people are having a trouble getting along with him, maybe they need to look at their own approach to these big issues, as opposed to looking at what he's talking about, which is consistent with building a better future for everyone.
Next question.
2 things. First of all, here he is defending that moron of an environment and climate change minister, Stephen Guilbeault, who just recently said the federal government's getting out of the road building industry because we don't want any more cars on the road. Suddenly, electric cars aren't the panacea they were just a few months ago when Guilbeault was hawking electric cars like a used car salesman, just the way Justin Trudeau was hawking heat pumps. Not talking about those anymore, is he? Because I'm sure a lot of people went through a very cold winter if they had a heat pump. But Guilbeault is indefensible. He is an extremist. He's nothing but a Greenpeace activist that put a suit on and jumped into the federal cabinet. He is nothing but a radical Marxist. And he has no business telling Canadians how to heat their homes, how to drive their cars, how to live in a modern society. But what really worries me about this interview, about these comments by Justin Trudeau, is that he's reinforcing his own sense of ego and narcissism, because once again, it's everybody else is wrong, not Justin Trudeau. That's why I'm unpopular, Justin says. It's because I'm right and everybody else is wrong. If people could just get with the program and realize that I'm like a demigod and that I am just somebody that they're lucky to have as their prime minister. If they could only realize how wise I am, how sagacious, how worthy I am to be prime minister, then there would be no problem. But apparently Canadians aren't smart enough, aren't perspicacious enough, aren't with it enough to get how lucky we are to have Justin Trudeau as our prime minister. So therefore, Justin will just have to submit to being unpopular until history proves him right. Well, there's been a lot of other leaders in the past, usually dictators, who just said, you don't like me? That's tough. You're just going to have to put up with my policies because I'm here to stay. And that's what that suggests to me, is that Justin Trudeau is once again saying, I am going to rule by decree if I have to. I am going to rule by emergency decree if I have to, whether it's a financial crisis or whether it's another pandemic. I might just decide not to call an election in 2025 because the country couldn't stand it. It needs me too much, and I might lose to that Poilievre guy, that far-right Poilievre. And we can't have that because I'm right after all, and history is going to prove me being right. That's how this guy thinks. That's how Justin Trudeau thinks. And that's what's so ominous about that this morning. I did a radio interview with a friend of mine from Mississauga. And he asked me that question. Do I think that, Justin Trudeau is wising up here to the fact that he's really on the wrong track? No, he doesn't think he's on the wrong track. He thinks you're on the wrong track. He thinks we're on the wrong track if we disagree with him. And I think more exactly, he said to me, do you think Justin Trudeau is getting it? Is he getting it that he's unpopular? Yeah, he's getting he's unpopular. But unfortunately, that's not going to mean any change in his policies or his attitude. It's just going to mean he's going to shove it down your throat that much harder. That's what Justin Trudeau is all about. Let's hear what Pierre Poilievre has to say about this whole situation.
Liberals are on the run. In fact, the Liberal Premier here, who formally supported and even implemented a carbon tax in this province, has now done a full flip-flop. And he has, in the lead up to his provincial election, written a letter to Trudeau saying, spike the hike on April 1st. This joins with 6 other provincial premiers from across the country who are mounting pressure on Justin Trudeau. Now, you'll say he'll never back down. Trudeau and the NDP are so greedy, they want every penny they can get. Well, the latter is true, but they will back down to save their jobs. A majority of the provinces, 70% of premiers and 70% of Canadians say they want to spike the hike. And common sense federal Conservatives will have motions before Parliament next week to do exactly that. So we're calling on you to join this tax revolt. If you want to spike the hike, call your MP. Protest outside of NDP Liberal constituency offices. Share the message with friends and neighbors.
I think Poilievre is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. I don't always agree with what Mr. Poilievre says, especially when it comes to Ukraine and doling out billions to Ukraine. But I think he knows by the time he's Prime Minister, it's not going to be an issue anymore. The war will be over, and he won't have to dole out billions one way or the other to Ukraine. So I think he's playing this close to the chest. I don't agree with it, but hey, I understand the politics involved here. But I have more respect for anybody who would say we've got to oppose this policy. But I think Poilievre is dead on the economy. He's becoming better and better every week on these contentious social issues that Trudeau is using to divide us, such as gender ideology. And I hope he's going to speak out stronger and more vociferously about the Online Harms Act, because as somebody mentioned to me today, he said, you're right, David. That's the most dangerous piece of legislation in front of us today. That's the most dangerous concept in front of Canada today. Yes, there are other things that are hurting us badly, but that could capture our basic freedoms and never give them back. So that's why I think we need to fight the Online Harms Act together, and we need to stop being in any way half-assed in our opposition to it. But bravo to Pierre Poilievre for fighting against the carbon tax as strongly as he does and as he continues to do, because believe me, it's a bread and butter issue that Canadians are a lot more concerned about than they are about climate change and the war in Ukraine. Thanks for watching today. I will keep you in tune and informed about the Freedom Convoy trial. Apparently, it's going into next week here in Ottawa. We'll let you know. And I will be reporting on it like I have from day one. And I'll be there. And I'll interview real people myself. Thanks for watching today. God bless.
Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again.